Okay, so, we've got this really interesting mix of stuff you sent over.
We do.
Like, on the one hand, you've got these ancient biblical texts, and then, like, right alongside them, you've got these modern financial philosophies, guys like Robert Kiyosaki, Ramit Sethi.
Yeah, fascinating combination.
It is, and it's all kind of circling around this idea of generosity, which, could be a lot to unpack on your own.
It could. A lot of different angles there.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to deep dive into together.
Sounds good.
You've given us this like really wide range of perspectives on generosity. It spans centuries.
It does.
And all these different ideas about, wealth and what it means to be generous.
And I think what we're aiming for here is to, really distill those down.
Yeah.
Identify those fundamental principles, see if there's some common ground,
Right.
maybe between these sources that on the surface seem pretty different.
Totally.
And ultimately, I think, give you a richer understanding
Yeah.
of what it means to be truly generous.
More nuanced. More nuanced,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this thing. It seems like logically we start with the Bible.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of the foundation, right? Sure. And like right off the bat, what jumps out is that in the Bible, generosity, it's not just about money.
Right.
It's not just about transactions.
Yeah.
It's tied into this whole idea of faith, right?
Right.
It shapes your relationship with God. And it kind of like it dictates how you interact with, everybody else,
Yeah.
especially like people in need.
The vulnerable, the marginalized.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's much bigger than just like, here's some cash.
Much broader concept.
Exactly. And like what's really interesting to me is how much emphasis the Bible puts on the motivation behind generosity.
Mm-hmm.
It really stresses that it should come from joy,
Yeah.
from a willing heart.
Like a genuine desire to give.
Exactly. Not like out of obligation or like, oh, I have to do this.
Yeah, not a chore, not a duty.
No, not at all. And there's this one verse that really drives that home.
Okay.
2 Corinthians 9:7.
Okay.
And it says, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.
It's powerful.
Oh,
When you read that,
that is.
it really emphasizes that personal decision, that inner willingness,
Yeah.
and the spirit that you bring to giving, like how you give is as important as what you give.
Totally. And then you've got Acts 20.35, which is another like
Mhm.
really powerful statement. It says,
Mm.
it is more blessed to give than to receive.
It does. And it's interesting the context for that one is.
Oh, yeah. Tell me.
It's Paul. He's addressing the elders of the Ephesian church.
Right.
And it's this profound idea that there's more joy, more fulfillment in the act of giving itself
In giving.
than in getting.
Yeah, than receiving.
And if you kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture,
Yeah.
this aligns with a lot of spiritual traditions.
Mm.
This idea that focusing too much on getting things for yourself, accumulating,
Right.
it can actually lead to isolation.
Okay.
Whereas giving, it fosters connection.
Hmm.
It reflects this more outward focus,
Yeah.
more altruistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in the Bible specifically, there's this idea that giving is like a divine attribute,
Okay.
which elevates it even more. It's like you're reflecting God's nature.
So it's like the takeaway from all these biblical passages about generosity
Yeah.
is that like true wealth isn't about how much stuff you've got.
Right. Not material possessions.
It's about what you give
It's about what you give.
and how you give it,
Yes, exactly.
right? Like with good heart, with joy, with that cheerful spirit, like that verse says.
Yeah, and there's this promise of spiritual fulfillment, even blessings,
Right.
for people who give sincerely with the right heart.
Yeah.
So it's like a total shift in focus
Yeah.
from getting to giving,
Exactly.
from material stuff to internal reward,
Yeah.
and making a positive impact on other people's lives.
Yeah.
It's a whole different way of defining what it means to be wealthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and look at how these ideas about generosity show up in like the modern world.
In more contemporary financial thought.
Exactly. So you mentioned Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
And his whole message is really about like, taking control of your finances.
Right. Financial education,
Yeah.
investing, building businesses, making your money work for you.
Yeah. Like shifting your mindset from working for money to having money work for you.
Exactly.
But he also talks about giving back,
He
right?
does. He
Hmm.
does. And what's interesting is, for Kiyosaki, it's not just about getting rich for yourself.
Okay.
He sees it as like building wealth so you can help others,
Yeah,
which is like super aligned with those biblical principles.
totally. It's like, your success isn't just for you.
Right. It's a tool to benefit others.
Yeah. It is. It is. And he actually, like, straight up encourages people to donate both time and money,
He does.
which is, like, echoing that biblical idea of stewardship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you're not just the owner of your wealth, you're kind of entrusted with it.
You manage it. You share it.
Exactly.
It's a responsibility.
Now, on the other hand, you've got Ramit Sethi.
I will teach you to be rich.
Right. And his approach feels very different.
It does. Much more modern. Very practical.
Yeah, like, enjoy your life now,
Yeah.
but also be smart with your money.
Make smart financial decisions.
Right. But generosity, that's still a part of his philosophy, right?
It is. In fact, he's a big advocate for budgeting for charitable donations.
Okay.
Like, it's not an afterthought.
Right.
It's built into your financial plan from the start.
So it's not like, oh, if I have some left over, maybe I'll give.
No.
It's like, no, this is part of my plan.
It's a conscious, regular part of your spending.
I like that. So for Sethi, it's not an either.
Not at all.
You can enjoy your life and your money and still be generous.
It's about balance.
Uh,
Enjoying the rewards of your efforts, but also giving back to the community.
and that aligns, again, with what we were talking about with the Bible.
Yeah, it's not about deprivation as a prerequisite for generosity.
Right. And both Kiyosaki and Sethi, they kind of say the same thing, which is,
That being able to give is a sign of true wealth.
it is.
It means you have more than enough for yourself.
Right.
And you have the ability to make a difference in other people's lives.
I love that. Okay, so now let's get into some of the questions that, like, I think a lot of people have when they think about generosity.
Sure.
One that comes up all the time is, does the Bible say how much I should give?
Right. Like, is there a specific amount?
Yeah.
And based on what we've looked at, the New Testament doesn't give a hard and fast percentage.
Right.
What it stresses is that you give proportionally
Okay.
based on what you have.
Okay.
But even more importantly, with a
Mm.
willing heart, like, the attitude matters most.
And it's that 2 Corinthians 9.7 again, right?
Exactly.
It's the cheerful giver that counts, not the one who gives grudgingly or just because they feel like they should.
And it's interesting because the Old Testament, they had tithing.
Right. The 10%.
Yeah, 10%. But in the New Testament, the focus shifts.
Okay.
It becomes more about your heart,
Yeah.
your personal decisions.
So it's less about a rule
Yeah,
and more about your motivation.
exactly.
Another big question is, what if I don't have a lot to give?
Right. Like, what if you're not in a position of financial abundance?
Yeah. And, the Bible actually has a really interesting perspective on that.
It does.
It says that God values the heart of the giver
Yeah.
more than the amount of money.
More than the size of the gift.
Yeah. And there's this story, the widow's offering
Oh, yeah.
in Mark 12.4144,
Right.
where this widow, she gives like just 2 little coins.
Yeah, a tiny amount.
Yeah.
But Jesus points her out.
He does.
He says her offering was greater than all the rich people's donations.
Yeah, because she gave everything she had.
Exactly. It's about the proportion,
Yeah.
the sacrifice.
So it's like it completely changes how we think about generosity.
It does. It shows that generosity isn't just for the wealthy.
Yeah.
Anyone can have a generous spirit.
No matter how much they have.
Exactly.
And, I think another question people struggle with is, especially in a society where money equals success,
Right.
is it okay to enjoy wealth and still be generous?
That's a good question. And the Bible doesn't actually condemn wealth itself.
Okay.
What it warns against is the love of money.
Right. Like being obsessed with it.
Yeah, like in 1 Timothy 6.0,
Right.
it's okay to enjoy the fruits of your labor, your success.
Right.
But the key is, don't let wealth control you.
Right.
And remember that you can use it for good,
Yeah.
including helping others.
And that brings us back to Kiyosaki and Sethi.
It does. They both say, enjoy your success.
Yeah.
But also make a commitment to giving back.
It's not about living like a monk to be generous.
Right.
It's about integrating generosity into your life.
Into a life that includes financial well-being.
Exactly. Okay, so it's really cool to see how these ideas play out in the real world.
It is. You see it all around us.
Like, for example, you've got guys like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett.
Yeah. Huge philanthropist.
I mean, they've made a ton of money,
A lot of wealth.
but now they're giving a huge chunk of it away.
Through foundations, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Right, and it's like they're putting those biblical principles into action.
Using their resources to make a difference in the world.
Exactly. Then you've got, like, the rise of these social enterprises.
Yeah. Businesses with a built-in mission to do good.
Yeah, like Tarmas Shoes.
Right. Where every purchase triggers a donation.
It's like they've woven generosity into their business model,
It's not just a side project, it's how they operate.
which proves that you can make money and be generous at the same time.
Absolutely. Purpose and profit can go hand in hand.
And then there's the whole explosion of crowdfunding and online giving platforms.
Yeah, like GoFundMe, Kickstarter.
It's like a new way for people to be generous.
Totally. It's a modern twist on that age-old idea of sharing resources.
And it allows people to support all sorts of causes.
Medical expenses, creative projects.
It's like democratizing generosity.
Yeah, anyone can participate, no
Well-
matter their financial situation.
So as we kind of wrap this deep dive up,
Yeah.
what would you say are the key takeaways for the listener?
You know, after exploring all this, both the ancient and the modern,
Yeah.
I think there are 4 big things to remember.
Okay, hit me.
First, generosity. It really starts in your heart.
Yeah.
It's about being willing to share, being joyful about giving.
Right.
Second, the act of giving itself brings joy and fulfillment, often more than receiving.
Yeah.
Third, building wealth and being generous aren't mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Right.
And finally, there's immense joy and purpose in blessing others through giving, no matter the size of the gift.
It really is amazing to see how, whether you're looking at ancient texts or modern day advice, this idea of generosity being more than just a transaction, it just keeps coming up.
It does. It's timeless.
It is. It's like, it's about our values, our relationships, how we see ourselves in the world.
So as you think about all this, I'd ask yourself, what does generosity look like in your life?
Good question.
And how can you cultivate that attitude regardless of your financial situation?
Right. It's something to keep thinking about, even after this deep dive is over.
Absolutely.
This has been awesome. Thanks for diving in with me.
My pleasure.
And to all of you listening, keep those questions coming. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
See you then.